The wind moved slow across the open land. Dry grass waved like it was whispering secrets to the dirt. The sun was low, painting everything gold. In the middle of nowhere, an old cabin stood. The wood was gray and cracked. The roof sagged. Smoke rose from the chimney, thin and slow. Inside that cabin sat a man named Clint Mercer. He was a big man once, strong and proud. Now his shoulders were narrow, and his back bent just a little more than it should. His beard was wild, gray, like old snow. He wore a dirty shirt and boots with holes in them. He sat in a crooked chair holding a piece of wood and a knife. He was carving something, but not really. His hands moved, but his eyes were far away. Clint hadn't spoken to anyone in a long time. Not since the accident. Not since the fire. His heart had gone quiet, like his land. The cattle were gone. The barn had fallen down. And his family. They were just memories now. He stayed out here because no one came out this far. Not anymore. The first knock was soft. He didn't hear it. The second knock was gentle, like someone was unsure. The third knock was small but clear, like a tap of hope against wood. Clint blinked. He stood slowly. His leg hurt. The left one, where the bullet never came out. He limped to the door. His hand reached for the rifle hanging on the wall. He didn't grab it, just looked at it for a second. Then he opened the door. There on his porch stood a little girl. She was small. Her dress was thin and too short for her legs. Her feet were bare and scratched from walking. Her cheeks were dirty. Her lips were dry. In her arms she held a broken corn husk doll. The arms were missing. The hair was made of yellow thread. The doll looked sad like her, but the girl's eyes, big, wide, and green, looked straight into Clint's heart. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just said one thing. "My mommy can't walk anymore. Please help, Daddy." Clint froze. The word Daddy hit him like a hammer. He gripped the doorframe. His breath caught in his chest. He looked at her again. For a second, she didn't look like a stranger. She looked like Lena, his daughter. The daughter he had lost long ago. The daughter he could not save. He opened his mouth, tried to speak. "I'm not..." But the girl had already turned around and started walking. Clint stood there, watching, confused, heart pounding. He could have gone back inside, shut the door, pretended it never happened, but he didn't. He grabbed his coat, pulled on his boots, took his lantern. Then he stepped outside into the falling dark. The girl walked with steady steps. She didn't look back. Her feet moved like they knew where they were going. Clint followed, limping. He tried to speak again. "What's your name?" he asked. No answer. "Is your mama hurt bad?" he said. Still nothing. He looked around. The land was open and rough, dry bushes, sharp rocks, trees that looked like bones. The stars began to come out blinking like small eyes. The girl kept walking. She was quiet, like she belonged to the land, like she had grown from the dirt and dust. Her dress swayed. Her doll bounced against her side. But she never looked scared. Clint had questions. Too many. Where did she come from? Why did she call him Daddy? Was this real? But none of the questions came out right. He was a man who had forgotten how to use words, so he just kept walking. After some time, they reached a small hill. At the top, the girl stopped. She pointed. "Down there," she said. Clint stepped beside her and looked. In a patch of bushes and broken branches, he saw something. A shape. A person. He moved closer, slowly. It was a woman. She lay on her side, her face pale, her lips cracked. Her dress was torn. Her leg was twisted at a bad angle. One hand rested on her belly. The other was half buried in the dirt. She was breathing, but just barely. Clint knelt beside her. His knees creaked. His bad leg screamed. But he didn't care. He touched her wrist, felt for a pulse. Alive, but weak. The woman's eyes fluttered, open, dark brown, full of pain. "Don't leave us," she whispered. Her voice was rough like dust on stone. "Please, don't leave us here." Clint looked at the girl. She was sitting now next to the woman, stroking her hair, holding the broken doll tight. "I ain't your," he started, but stopped. The truth didn't matter now. The girl needed help. The woman was dying. And Clint was the only one out here. He stood up, slowly, groaning from pain. Then he bent down again and lifted the woman into his arms. She was light, too light, like her body was made of paper and old prayers. The girl stood too, silent, close beside him. Clint turned back toward the cabin. The sky was dark now, stars overhead. Coyotes howled far off. The cold began to creep in. Step by step, Clint walked. His leg hurt, his arms ached, but he kept going. Because something inside him, something buried deep, had come alive again. By the time they reached the porch, Clint was soaked in sweat. His heart beat heavy. His breath came short. But he didn't stop. The girl ran ahead, opened the door. Clint carried the woman inside, laid her gently on his old table. He turned to the fire, threw in logs, stirred the coals. The room began to warm. He fetched water, found old blankets. His hands moved like they remembered. The girl sat on the floor, hugging her doll. She looked up at him and said, soft as a whisper, "My name's June." Clint stared at her. She smiled just a little. "My mommy said you were a good man." Clint didn't answer. He just turned back to the fire. The fire crackled inside the old cabin. Orange light danced across the walls. The woman lay on Clint's table, her breathing slow but steady now. A blanket covered her. Her face still looked pale, but the fever had dropped a little. Clint sat in his wooden chair, staring into the flames. His coat was still on, his boots muddy, his hands dirty from the walk. But he didn't care. On the floor near the fire, little June was fast asleep. She had curled up like a kitten, arms wrapped around her broken doll. Her hair was messy and her dress wrinkled, but her chest rose and fell in a quiet rhythm. Safe now. Clint hadn't had anyone in this cabin in years. He watched them both like he was guarding something rare, something he didn't know how to protect but was willing to try. The woman stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked confused at first. "Where am I?" she whispered. Clint walked over, helped her sit up a little. His hands were careful, like he was holding glass. "You're in my cabin," he said in a low voice. "You passed out, your ankle's broken. You were burning up." She looked around. Then her eyes found June. "She's okay," Clint said quickly. "She led me to you." The woman's lip trembled. She found someone." Clint gave her a cup of water. She drank slow. "What's your name?" he asked. "Evelyn Cartwright," she said after a long pause. Clint's jaw clenched. That name, Cartwright, rang in his head like a warning bell. Years ago, back in Bitter Hollow, the Cartwrights had been trouble. Moonshiners, fighters, lawbreakers. He remembered one named Jedediah Cartwright, a man full of anger and fire. "You from Bitter Hollow?" Clint asked. Evelyn looked away. "A long time ago. I left all that behind." Clint didn't speak. He stared at the fire. "I had nowhere else to go," she said. "I didn't think anyone lived out this far." "You're lucky she knocked," Clint muttered. "Was I?" Evelyn whispered. "Are we?" Clint looked at her. Her face was tired but strong. A mother who had walked until her body gave out. For her child. He didn't answer her question. Instead, he said, "Rest now. You'll need your strength." The next morning came quiet and slow. Clint stood over the stove, cooking oats in an old pot. The smell of food filled the cabin. June woke first. She rubbed her eyes and sat up, her doll still in her arms. "Morning," Clint said. She looked at him for a second, then smiled sleepily. "Smells good." He handed her a tin bowl. "Eat. You need it." She took the spoon with both hands like it was gold. She ate fast like someone who hadn't had a full meal in days. Evelyn tried to sit up. Clint helped her again. Her face still looked tired, but her eyes were clearer now. He gave her a bowl, too. She ate slow with small bites. Clint didn't say much. He just watched them. Something in his chest felt heavy and light at the same time, like a door had opened that he didn't know was still locked. Later, while Evelyn rested, Clint went outside. He fixed the old wagon wheel he had been working on before they came. His hands moved with purpose. The sun was high, the wind soft. It felt like the land was watching too, quiet, waiting. When he came back inside, he saw June drawing on a piece of wood with a burnt stick. The doll sat beside her, still missing its arms. Clint sat nearby. He didn't speak, he just watched. "Why are you out here alone?" June asked suddenly. He didn't answer right away. "Lost my family," he said at last. "Long time ago. Figured the world was done with me." June looked up. "But you helped us." Clint's throat tightened. "Didn't think I would, but I did." She smiled. "Mama says even broken men can still do good things." He didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. That night, the wind howled outside. Wolves cried in the distance. Clint checked the fire, made sure the door was locked. Then he sat near Evelyn again. "You'll need a doctor," he said, "soon as you can move." "I know," she said. "Where were you heading?" "Anywhere safe," she replied. "We were running from the past." Clint knew that, feeling well. "I used to be a sheriff," he said. "Back in another life." Evelyn looked surprised. "That explains the way you carry yourself." He chuckled, low and dry. "Used to carry justice. Now I just carry silence." Evelyn looked at him, eyes soft. "But you still carry something, that counts." 3 days passed. Evelyn's fever broke. Her ankle stayed wrapped. June smiled more. She helped Clint gather wood, sweep the floor, feed the fire. The cabin felt alive again. Not full, but not empty either. On the 4th day, Clint hitched up the old mule. "We'll ride to town tomorrow," he said. "Get you to a doctor." Evelyn nodded. "Thank you, Clint." He looked away. "Just doing what's right." That night, they all sat around the fire. June curled up beside Clint's chair. Evelyn rested nearby, her voice soft. "You know," she said. June lost her real daddy before she could remember him. He wasn't a good man. Clint didn't speak. "But when she saw you," Evelyn continued, "she said you looked like someone who could be." Clint looked down at the girl. She was half asleep, holding the doll tight. He felt something move inside, a memory, a wish. "I'm no father," he whispered. "Maybe not," Evelyn said, "but you are something better than nothing. And sometimes, that's what saves people." As the fire burned low, Clint stared at the glowing embers. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew this. He had a wagon to pull, a woman to protect, and a little girl who called him Daddy. Not by blood, but by the way he chose to stand by her. And for the first time in a long while, that felt like enough. Morning came quiet and cold. The cabin stood still under the pale sky. The wind was soft, like it didn't want to wake the trees. Clint stood outside, tightening the saddle on the old mule. He checked the wagon one last time. Blankets, water, dried meat, rope. He didn't pack much, just enough. Inside, Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed. Her ankle was wrapped tight and her face had more color now. Still weak, but stronger than before. She looked over at June, who was tying a ribbon around her doll's neck. "You ready, little one?" Evelyn asked. June nodded. "I'm not scared." Evelyn smiled. "Good girl." Clint stepped in, brushing dust from his coat. "We should move. It's a long ride." He helped Evelyn into the wagon, slow and careful. Every movement made her wince, but she said nothing. She was tough. Clint had seen softer men fall apart for less. June sat beside her mother, clutching her doll. Clint took the reins, gave a click of his tongue, and the mule began to pull. They left the cabin behind. The trail to town was rough, long and dry. The sky stretched wide above them like a sea of pale blue. Dust kicked up behind the wheels. Every bump made Evelyn grip the wagon's side. June stayed quiet, eyes watching the world pass by. She had never seen so much open land, just trees, dry creeks, and hills that rolled like waves. After an hour, Clint spoke. "Town's still far. Might take all day." Evelyn nodded. "I can hold on." "You always this stubborn?" he asked, half smiling. "I had to be," she said. "Had no one else." Clint looked ahead. "You got someone now?" Evelyn turned her head. "Do I?" Clint didn't answer, but his grip on the reins tightened just a little. Midday heat settled over the land. The mule slowed. Clint pulled the wagon under a patch of trees and helped Evelyn down to rest. June ran to pick wildflowers, her laughter ringing soft in the wind. Clint poured water into a tin cup and gave it to Evelyn. She drank slowly, then looked up at him. "You lost someone, didn't you?" He didn't flinch. "A daughter." Evelyn nodded, eyes sad. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago," he said. "But some wounds don't care about time." They sat in silence. The wind shifted. A hawk flew high above. "She looked like June," Clint said after a while. "Same eyes, same smile." "That why you helped us?" Evelyn asked. Clint shook his head. "I didn't help you because of her. I helped you because I couldn't ignore the knock this time." They rode on. The land changed slowly. More trees. A river in the distance. A dirt road that looked like it had seen better days. June dozed off beside her mother. Evelyn kept her eyes on Clint. "You ever think about starting over?" she asked. Clint didn't turn around. "Tried once. Didn't go well. Maybe this time's different." "Maybe," he said, "but I ain't good at hope." "You're good at protecting," she said. "You're good at being strong when others fall." Clint chuckled. "You sound like a preacher." Evelyn smiled. "No, just a woman who sees what's real." By late afternoon, the town came into view. It wasn't much, just a few wooden buildings, a saloon, a doctor's office, a church with a broken bell. Dust blew through the main street like it owned the place. Clint pulled the wagon to a stop outside the doctor's building. He jumped down, helped Evelyn again, more gentle than before. A man with glasses and a long white coat stepped out. "She's hurt," Clint said. "Broken ankle, fever before." The doctor nodded. "Bring her in." Evelyn looked back at Clint as they carried her inside. "Will you wait?" "I'll be right here," he said. June stayed beside Clint. She grabbed his hand without a word. He looked down at her small fingers. Warm, strong, trusting. The doctor worked fast. He cleaned the wound, wrapped the ankle tight with clean cloth. "Gave Evelyn something for the pain. She'll be fine," he said. "Needs a few weeks to heal. Rest and care." Evelyn leaned back on the cot. Her eyes were tired but calm. Clint stepped in. "Doctor says you'll be all right," he said. "I believe him," she said. "And I believe in you too." He looked away. "You gonna stay?" she asked. "Or ride off?" "I haven't decided." June ran to her mother, climbed up beside her. Evelyn looked at Clint. "She calls you Daddy now." Clint smiled faintly. "I know." That night they stayed in a room above the saloon. It was small but warm. Clint stood at the window, watching the moon rise over the town. Evelyn sat on the bed, holding June, who had fallen asleep again. "You still think you're a broken man?" she asked. "I know I am," Clint said. She shook her head. "No. You're a man who answered a cry for help. That's not broken. That's brave." Clint didn't reply. He just kept looking at the stars. After a while, Evelyn said, "We don't have much, but we could use someone strong like you." Clint turned. "You offering me a place?" "I'm offering you a family." He looked at her, then at June, and Something inside him shifted. Morning came. Clint saddled the mule again. But this time he didn't ride out alone. He stood beside Evelyn as she leaned on crutches, June holding her hand. They watched the sun rise together, not as strangers, not as broken pieces, but as something whole, something beginning. The town woke up slow the next morning. The sky turned gold and the dirt roads shimmered with new sun. Roosters called. Storefronts opened. Smoke curled from chimneys. Clint stood outside the doctor's house, his hat low, boots dusty, and his eyes watching the quiet street. Behind him the door opened. Evelyn stepped out carefully, one crutch under her arm. Her ankle was wrapped, but she stood tall. "You're up early," she said. "Old habit," Clint replied, not turning. June ran. Out a moment later, her doll tucked under one arm and 2 small biscuits in her hands. She handed one to Clint. "You didn't eat?" she said. Clint took the biscuit with a smile. "Thanks, kid." She grinned wide. "I'm not a kid. I'm a Cartwright." Clint raised an eyebrow at Evelyn. "You sure about that?" Evelyn smiled. First, she says it like it's a badge. They all laughed a little. It was quiet, but it was real. Later that day, Clint walked down the main street. He passed the saloon, the general store, and the old jailhouse, now half falling apart. The sheriff's office was boarded up. The badge inside still hung behind dusty glass. A man in a clean brown coat stood by the rail. He nodded at Clint. "You're the one who brought in that woman and girl, right?" Clint nodded. "You used to be sheriff somewhere, didn't you?" Clint paused. "Once, long time back." The man stuck out his hand. "Name's Harris. I'm the new law in town, but I ain't staying long. Folks here don't need a badge. They need someone who stays." Clint looked him in the eye. "What are you saying?" "I'm leaving. Tomorrow morning. This town needs someone like you." Clint looked back at the street. People were sweeping porches, hanging laundry, fixing carts. Normal lives. Simple lives. "I'm not looking to be sheriff again," Clint said. Harris shrugged. "Maybe, but maybe the town's looking for you." That evening, Clint returned to the doctor's house. Evelyn was sitting on the porch. June played in the dirt, drawing with a stick. "Something happen?" Evelyn asked. Clint leaned on the post. "Sheriff wants to leave. Asked if I'd take the badge." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "And?" "I told him I'd think about it." June looked up. "Does that mean we have to move?" "No," Clint said. "Not unless you want to." "We like it here," June said. "They have a school and a bakery." Evelyn smiled. "It's a good town." Clint looked down. "Wouldn't be the worst place to start over." Evelyn watched him quietly. "You want a place, Clint? Because we have room beside us." He looked at her. "You sure about that?" She nodded. "You came when no one else would. You stayed. That means more than you think." Weeks passed. Evelyn got stronger. Her ankle healed. June started school. Clint helped fix the broken fences outside town. He cleaned the old jailhouse, hung the sheriff badge back on the wall, not because he wanted the title, but because someone had to look out for the town. He didn't bark orders or wear the badge heavy. He just did what needed doing. He walked June to school some days, sat on the porch in the evenings with Evelyn. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just listened to the wind. He built a small shed beside the doctor's house, made it into a workshop. He carved toys out of wood, repaired broken wagon wheels. He was still quiet, still carried shadows, but he wasn't alone anymore. One night, a storm rolled in. Rain came heavy, wind howled through town. A man came riding hard into the night, bleeding from the shoulder, yelling that bandits were near. Clint didn't hesitate. He lit the lantern, saddled his mule, took his rifle. Evelyn came out of the house. "Where are you going?" "Someone needs help," Clint said. She stepped closer. "You don't have to save the whole world." Clint touched her shoulder gently. "I'm not trying to. Just trying to save the peace I belong to." She nodded. "Come back safe." He gave her one look, then rode into the dark. By morning, the danger had passed. Clint came back bruised and wet, but standing. He had led the strangers away from town. He hadn't fired a single shot, just outsmarted them with firelight and fast thinking. June ran to him. "You came back." He picked her up. "Told you I would." Evelyn stood on the porch, arms crossed, smiling. "You always this heroic?" Clint wiped the mud off his face. "Only on Thursdays." The town had changed him, but he had changed the town too. Folks nodded when he passed now. Kids waved. Men tipped their hats. He didn't ask for thanks, but people gave it anyway. He wasn't just the man in the cabin anymore, he was Clint. The one who answered the knock, the one who stayed, the one they called Daddy.